Hello there and welcome to Black Jackal Gaming. We're going to take a look at the remaining Space Marine units that may need an update. The majority of the models have already crossed the Rubicon or moved into Legends, never to be seen again, but we have just had a shadow drop for the updated drop pod, which was a bit of a surprise. So what other kits are in need of an update? Let's take a look. First up we have the Vanguard Veterans. In the previous editions we did have a variation that was both on foot and a jump unit, and in 10th edition we only have the jump veterans. So I think with that in mind, it's pretty obvious that we will receive new veterans in the future. Before this edition, they did have a lot of access to different special weapons as well as the melee weapons and other options such as storm shields, which you don't see on normal units, and this made them stand out from your typical assault intercessor. So there is still a gap in the market for these guys because your assault intercessor with just jump pack is just a normal intercessor that happens to be a little bit faster, where these guys had the upgraded gear to go along with it. Now unfortunately I can't see them doing a foot slogging version. It's really taken up by the Vanguard Veterans. You need to give them a little bit more room to breathe, and hopefully in 11th edition you'll see a little bit more variation in the combi weapons rather than just having one profile. Now it would be nice to have a unit on foot that did have access to other options, but we do have the likes of the Blade Guard Veterans with the power weapons and storm shields, so there's not an awful lot of space within the Space Marine range to have them on foot. Whereas for jump packs, we only have one option at the moment. As we've seen with most units across the Rubicon, they do lose some of their options, but I can see them still being equipped with storm shields and power weapons to make them stand out from the crowd. And you're always going to have the upgrades for the Sergeant, who will hopefully then have access to a different type of melee weapon, so we won't just have power sword or something like that. He'll have access to the likes of a thunder hammer and a power fist, and also an updated pistol. It'd be nice if they do have the option to take your lightning claws as well, especially if they can take it as a single option, which makes them stand out a little bit more as well. It's always nice to see a storm shield with a lightning claw. I think it's a really cool option to have. Looking at the assault Terminators, we've obviously had the refresh at the start of 10th edition for the standard Terminators, and they look great in the better scale. So this really just means that the assault variant is around the corner. I can't see them making too many changes to the current kit. You're obviously just going to have the option of your thunder hammer and storm shield or your twin lightning claws. I can't really see them deviating from that, because the new standard Terminators, they pretty much stayed as they were for the previous kit, apart from not having as much access to the Cyclone missile launchers. It will be interesting if they come up with a new option for them to have in melee, maybe a completely new Space Marine option altogether, because what they have, they pretty much had for many years and editions now, so it'd be nice if they come up with something a little bit new. Moving on to vehicles, we've got the Vindicator tank. Now this has been a really popular option for the last two editions, and it's been popular throughout most of its time in the game. I think it's quite an iconic looking kit. It's your only Space Marine option that does come with the snowplow on the front, and it's your only option that's really had battle cannon that more represents what you expect to be on a tank. We have had an updated version in the Horus Heresy game, the 30k game, so it is in mind that they are updating some of the Rhino chassis, but whether they move them across or not is up to debate. With that in mind, I do expect them to probably get rid of the Rhino chassis and just go full into the Impulsor chassis. So we'll have maybe a new Gladiator variant with a Demolisher style battle cannon as its main option. Then to mix it up a bit on the side, because it is more of a short range option to have, and I hope they keep it that way as well. So when it moves in close, it'd be nice to have some flamers to go along with it. Like with a lot of the Gladiators, they are there to serve a purpose and they have their own niche. So having this shorter range option that has a Demolisher style cannon and flamers could be a really cool option to have. I really can't see them removing Vindicators from the game, because it is something that is lacking from the Primaris range. Having a battle cannon that's got a variable amount of shots rather than what we currently have, which is pretty much anti-infantry, and then you have your anti-tank, which is a couple of shots but high damage, high AP and variable damage. It would be nice to have more of the mid-strength variable shot type with a decent AP and damage to go along with it. The Demolisher's always been more of a flexible option to have, so you can go into infantry and tanks, which is what the Gladiator is currently lacking because they're so specialist. Moving across to the Whirlwind, it's another one of the firstborn tanks that does have the old Rhino chassis. Like I said, I don't expect the chassis to stay around, but this unit has always seen play since it's entered the game. So with that in mind and how good it's been over the last couple of editions and how popular it is, I can really imagine this would be reimagined because we don't have anything in the Primaris lineup at the moment that replicates what this does. So I think it would be another Gladiator version with its Impulsor chassis, but I think it might be more modelled on the weapons from the Desolation Squad. So how the turret is mounted onto the Impulsor, I imagine would be a bit different than we're used to. So with that in mind, don't expect it to say how it is. I expect it to be more of like a large Vanguard battery. It's probably got a much lower profile, wider, with multiple rockets in. Looking at the current one, there's no real reason for the two sections to be split across. I expect it just to be one unit that's mountable and can move across. Now this is the only indirect option on a tank for Space Marines, so I can't really imagine they would get rid of it. I do think this will stay around. Moving across to the Chaplain with the jump pack. This is the only firstborn character in the Codex that is a generic character. Every other character has either gone to Legends or they crossed the Rubicon and have a Primaris version. I can imagine this would be released at the same time as a new Vanguard Veterans kit because GW often likes to release a character unit with a new unit that it can join. It likes to have that synergy, and it really gives you an option to use it. If they just released it to go with the Assault Intercessors with the jump pack, it's not really going to grab hold of the audience and go, yes, I really want this character to give that +1 to those chainsword attacks. Whereas if it's given +1 to power weapons, potentially power fists and the likes of the lightning claws, that's a little bit juicier to get your teeth into. So if they do reimagine this and bring it back with the jump variant, I'd expect it to be quite popular if it was released with the Vanguard Veterans. As for its loadout, we do already have 3 different types of Primaris Chaplains, because of course we have the one on the bike, the Terminator, and your standard Tacticus option, and they all come pretty much with the Absolver pistol and a Crozius Arcanum. Now you do have the option with the Terminator to go with the Relic Shield as well, but that's what we often see with Terminators anyway, so that's the only variation. I wouldn't imagine they would put this on the jump version. You would just have your standard Crozius Arcanum and a pistol to go along with it. Looking at Centurions, they are 2 profiles at the moment, and I'm really undecided with Centurions. They're so different to a lot of the kits that they are pretty much iconic by themselves, and they have been that heavier, sturdier option for your infantry, and they've been really good in the last 2 editions. Not good throughout the entirety of the editions, but they've had their moments during them where they've been a meta unit to use. The only problem is that they don't have a Primaris armor type to cross over to, which leaves them in a bit of a strange position. Now, will GW make a tougher version of Gravis armor or come up with another armor type altogether? I'm not really sure. I think it's pretty much 50-50 with this if it moved to Legends or get a new kit, and if I'm being honest, probably thinking it's more likely just to be moved to Legends. It's in that weird position where it does have a lot of the weapons that aren't given to your standard Primaris units. So it's got access like grav cannons and your las cannons and the types of those that we aren't seeing on your standard infantry models. And the melee variant with the siege drills, probably sitting a little bit too close to what the aggressors can do. Next we have suppressors, right, and hear me out on this because I do know this is a Primaris unit. But this is one of the kits that launched at the start of 8th edition with the first wave of the Primaris units, and it's never actually been on sale as an individual kit. It came out in Adomitus, it's been in a couple of the starter sets as well, but you've never actually been able to purchase it. And it sits in a bit of a weird position where it is a jump unit with an autocannon, and that's the only option. It doesn't currently have the full boss word either. When you look at the kit, it is pretty much in Tacticus armor, but with the full boss backpack, which is a bit strange for it, really. I think it could really be repackaged and take the spot of the Devastator squad and Centurion squad, because it is really operating in the same space as them, carrying a heavy weapon on infantry into combat. And you could do this just by giving them a couple of extra options. So you can give them multi-motor, which is already in the Primaris range, the las cannons, even if they do want to change it to something like a las talon or something like that instead. But again, we are seeing this on the Primaris vehicle units, so they are in use. Or heavy bolters, or they could bring back grav cannons or something like that. And if they change them to be taken in a unit of 3 to 6 rather than just 3, you kind of fill in the gap that the Devastator and Centurion Devastator squad take with this unit. It's not as tough, it's much faster. And the rest, well, I think at this point, if we are being honest, tactical marines are going to go. Rhinos, Predators and Razorbacks have their variants already, as well as the Dreadnought and the Devastators with the Desolation Marines. They all have their Primaris versions, so is there really any point in moving them across? Now, I know we have seen a couple of things that have moved across that wasn't expected, like Terminators, which should really be replaced by Aggressors, and the Eliminators and full boss units replacing Scouts. But I do think these two serve a slightly different purpose, and Terminators were so iconic and quite frankly much better looking than the Gravis units, especially the Aggressors. I'm not really a fan of how they look, that they were brought back as well. But can I see them bringing more versions back when they already have the option? Like Tactical Marines, you've got Intercessors. What purpose would it be to bring them back apart from to put a Hellblaster in there with them? And there's no current options for a heavy weapon on any of the Primaris infantry units. So it puts them in a weird place. And with the Dreadnought, we've only got the one box Naught in the Codex at the moment. But we do have 3 Redemptor variants, as well as the Invictor Warsuit. We've actually covered that spot there. And Devastators, I just went over with the Suppressors. I think they can fill their spot if they give them a couple more options. So they really have no reason to bring them across. Now, money talks, so they might turn some of these into a Primaris version, such as the Razorback, and making the Impulsor, giving it a little lick of paint and a couple more options, and reducing its ability to carry infantry, so you're carrying 5 to 6 rather than the current 10 plus. But the Repulsor does kind of hover in that range as well. It's much more expensive, but it does pack a lot of firepower to go along with it as well. I really think all these units would just become legends. I really can't see them making a Primaris version. Maybe Devastators, but they like all their new units, the Primaris units, to be quite single focused. Unless they're going to release Devastators and they only have las cannons or something like that, I really do think they'd probably just become legends as well. Centurions are a bit of a weird one, and I do probably expect them to become legends. The only reason why I consider them not to become legends, because they do look so different than a lot of the units. And if they just rescaled them, they kind of already do look like Primaris units as they are. So if you just rescaled them, they wouldn't look out of place. And I'd really like them to stay as well. I like the models, but I am holding off buying them because one way or another, they'll be gone in the near future. We'll either have a new version to 2-scale, or they will be in Legends. But it would be interesting to see if GW did want an additional armor type. And then that pretty much just leaves you with the Land Raider, which is a very iconic unit. It's been a lot of the imagery from the start. It's been in the likes of Epic. We do have multiple variants in the current Codex. There's multiple variants in the Horus Heresy game. And it does stand apart from the other units. It's bigger than the Repulsor, especially in height. It doesn't look out of place. It's holding up really well. Its scale is quite nice. So I don't even think it needs to be reimagined. I think it can just be left exactly the same as it is. And it does serve a bit of a different purpose. It comes with a couple of extra heavy weapons in comparison to some of the other units. And it can carry more inside of it. But this is GW. And if there's a chance to make more money, would they re-release it? They certainly will. It's not the easiest kit to put together either. It's one of those ones where you've got to awkwardly hold it in place as you hope your plastic glue solidifies hard enough to keep it in place. So maybe they will give it a bit of a slight modification, have a new mold for it where the connections are a little bit easier to put together. And you know what they can do with that? Increase the price, and we know that's what they like to do. If you like the video, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel to see future content. Take it easy. I'll see you next time.